Apologies. The notice of webcasting for you, Ms Hinman, just to let you know, as I'm sure you're already aware, that that these proceedings are broadcast live onto the internet and recorded there for posterity. So please be aware that your comments have ramifications in a legal sense and for former Councillor Porteous as well, just to let you both know. Are there any disclosures of interest? None? I'll ask everyone to join me in a moment of quiet contemplation. Thank you. That brings us to the public forum, which is the first of our two speakers. Rochelle, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
You can, great, okay. Tell me when I can start. Tell me when I can start, Councillor Byrne?
You can start.
Sorry. Now. Did you say now?
Yep.
Sorry, I can't hear you very well. Yep, okay.
Please proceed.
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening, councillors and the council staff as well. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening about this extraordinary meeting. Look, first of all, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but I have to state it. I find it extremely concerning that this meeting has been convened this late at night. It's 10:30 at night. It's obviously a time when most of our residents are about to go to bed or in bed, and it's not the time to be dealing about a serious issue like the demerger of the three councils. And I'm extremely disappointed in the fact that our council has decided to convene it at this hour. It's obviously a time which is not accessible and it's not inclusive, and both of those are elements which should be adhered to in any convening of any meeting under the Code of Meeting Practice. So I really question why this meeting has been convened at this late night. I guess though, if you don't want people to participate and if you don't want this to be a meeting which is well attended, then it's probably a good time for you to decide to run it. I'll remind councillors that the fact that the majority of residents in the recent poll voted overwhelmingly for a de-amalgamation of the three councils, and that this is following the forced amalgamation of our councils on the 12th of May 2016, really is probably one of the most important things that you're going to deal with in this term of council. It's a huge item, and it really needs to be given the gravitas and the importance that it requires. And this certainly hasn't happened. And this is the reason for this extraordinary meeting, to address a lot of the shortfallings in the process that's being currently proposed. Because following the 7th of April meeting, the public meeting, which the General Manager attended and spoke at, and I thank him for coming and doing that, it was clear that councillors had had absolutely no scrutiny at all, no consultation on the process that was to be followed for the development of the demerger business case. There was no consultation with the community, there was no consultation with the council staff, and there'd been no inclusion of local government experts in the process. So it's not giving it the value and the enormity and the deal of importance that this should actually have. And it's abundantly clear that without this scrutiny, without the community consultation,
Ms Porteous, I'll ask you to conclude your remarks. Your time has expired. Councillor Stamoulis is moving. Sorry, Ms Porteous, if you could just wait one moment. We've just got a procedural motion. Councillor Stamoulis is moving an extension of time of 1 minute. Seconded by Councillor Griffiths. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? That has been defeated. Councillor Porteous, thank you for your contribution. Ms Hinman?
Could I just make a concluding remark?
Your time's expired. I'll ask you to conclude.
Could I make a concluding remark?
Well, there's been a
Because I
procedural.
was cut short because of. I agree, but Councillor Stamos made a procedural motion which was defeated, but I didn't have an opportunity, as you would normally provide to any member of the public, of concluding remark.
Please proceed.
So if I could make that.
It'll need to be less than a minute. I'll be asking you to discontinue, Councillor Porteous. I'm sorry, you're no longer a member of the chamber.
I appreciate that, Councillor Boone.
Councillor Porteous, I'm trying to be patient about
that-
it. You've been asked to conclude. If you would like to make one very brief concluding remark, please do so.
Yes, I am doing that. I am doing
Please proceed.
that. That's what I'm trying to do.
Please
Councillor
proceed,
Boone.
or I'll ask
What I
Ms.
want to
Hinman to
say-
come up.
What I would like to say is that I think it's really important that the council takes the community with them. This is such an important proposal that needs to go forward to the state government. You can't be excluding the community in the way that you're doing. And
Thanks,
leaving the
Councillor
council
Porteous. If you could conclude your remarks, please.
I would ask you that you do take the community with you on that.
Thanks
and do
very
a proper
much.
process has been outlined in this
Thank you for that.
motion.
Thanks
you.
very much, Councillor Porteous. Ms. Hinman?
I'd like to acknowledge that here on unceded land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, I've got to say at the outset, I think this is the most ridiculous time to have a discussion about the demerger, and many people have said the same thing. I broadly agree with the thrust of this motion, which is aimed at transparency, consulting local government experts with experience in demergers and residents as well as councillors on the whole demerger business case to be put to the New South Wales Government. Clearly, a tick-a-box approach is not going to work, especially when you're up against a Liberal state government that doesn't want to admit that its forced council amalgamations have not delivered the outcomes we were told they would. We're going to need all hands on deck if we're going to win. Now, General Manager Peter Gainsford told residents for de-amalgamation meeting on April 7 that the timeline for the business case is roughly 8th of June, to be discussed by the Audit and Risk Committee, 14th of June, planned for community engagement, to be reported to a council meeting, August, final business case to be reported to council with outcomes of community engagement, and then later in August, submit the business case. I ask, why the rush? And why only consult residents after Morrison Low brief has been prepared? Democratic organisations, including unions, use mass meetings to consult and receive advice from their members. Why not the Inner West Council? Now, Peter Gainsford's reply to one of the questions put by Councillor Liz Atkins in item 31, which I gather you're going to discuss tonight, was that Morrison Low will also review the transition costs, including service levels, shared services. To me, that doesn't inspire confidence. It's not hard to understand why residents are concerned that Morrison Low has been picked to deliver this case. These same consultants produced a report which essentially argued against amalgamation before the last election. Not just my reading of it, many residents told me this was their reading of the flyer that council letterboxed to them before the elections. Given this, 62.5% of the vote was to demerge across the whole LGA. This is a very telling result. Now, the General Manager said that Morrison Low will consider community perception surveys. This really doesn't stack up as real consultation. The most comprehensive way of consulting residents would be to do what we did on April 7, that is, ask local government experts for briefings and allow residents to quiz them and make suggestions about the overall framing. These meetings could be held in town halls, council halls at little cost. Genuine listening meetings would elicit some good ideas about how recrafting the three former councils could be done. Overall, the demerger business case would have the best chance of being successful with the
I'll ask
support
you to conclude.
of a mobilised community, and that will only happen if the process is fully transparent. Thank you.
Thanks very much. That concludes the public forum. We'll go to the motion that has been tabled. Now, I'll just clarify, are all three movers of the motion entitled automatically to speak, or do I need to identify a mover and a seconder? Who is the mover of the motion? Councillor Stamoulis, do you wish to speak to it? Please proceed.
Mr Mayor, first, would it be in order for me to move a procedural motion right at this moment so that council is aware of the context of the debate, and that would be that recommendations 1 to 11 be put to the vote in seriatim at each point B, that is, each point be considered separately if we put that to a vote. No, I mean, councillors should have the opportunity to vote on.
Okay, so there's a procedural motion to deal with the items separately, all 11 of them, moved by councillor Stamoulis, seconded by councillor Atkins. All those in favour, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That has been defeated. Councillor Stamoulis, please proceed with speaking to the substantive motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Fellow councillors, we have an amazing opportunity in front of us, and that is to pursue a very strong and very positive case for demerger. That's what our community has clearly asked us to do, and the opportunities are there now with the will of our community and with their strong voice to go back to the councils, that the 3 original councils that created the Inner West. The community didn't have a voice when we were merged. They did not have a voice at all. Finally, 5.5 years after the merger, they did. We moved that a poll be taken on the 4th of December involving 104,219 formal votes. Almost 63% of those said they wished to demerge, 63 versus 37. That is decisive, and it's a very, very clear result from our community that they wish that the forward process for them is to go back to the councils they had. We then recently had a community meeting as a result of lack of information, a lack of energy from this council on the demerger process, and a lack of commitment. Residents feel that they haven't been consulted in this process. They haven't been given a fair opportunity to participate in the process to date. And here we are, nearly 6 months out from that poll, and councillors themselves say that they haven't had the opportunity to be involved, and our residents have been completely left out. And look, councillors, it's fair to say there's division. We got a 37% vote saying that that they didn't wish to demerge. And of course, those divisions, I think, are clearly manifesting themselves here in this council. And I think it'd be wise, given the strong community vote, where those people felt compromised or ill at ease about the vote, to step aside. They should think very carefully and thoughtfully about this and step aside from that from the process, and let those councillors that are energised and are positive about this take their place. I think that's extremely important. This council has not released a media release. Have looked through all our media releases since December referring to the demerger, the outcome of the vote. What a complete lack of foresight to miss a key community vote on your media releases. Many councillors haven't even mentioned it on their face. Those who are on Facebook and social media simply ignore it.
Councillor Stamoulis, your time has expired. No, it was the second bell. The 3 minutes are up. Thanks very much, Councillor Stamoulis.
I'm moving an extension of time, Councillor Stamoulis.
Councillor Griffiths is moving extension of time of how long?
4 minutes.
4. I'll let Councillor Griffiths identify the time. Councillor Griffiths is moving extension time of 4 minutes. It's a very specific amount. Is there a seconder for that motion? Come on, guys, get your act together. There's a seconder for the 4 minute extension of time. All those in favour?
It's one.
Sorry?
It's
Well,
one.
he said 4.
Come on,
Sorry, I'm
are you
confused.
serious or what?
I'll call the meeting to order. I'll put the vote for the extension of 1 or 4, whatever it was. It's confusing because you've said different times. Changed it. Okay, 1. All those in favour? All those against? That has been defeated, 8-7. Who is the seconder of the motion? Councillor Atkins.
First, I do just want to comment on how disappointing it was that with 14 days from when the notice was lodged to hold a meeting, it was decided to hold the extraordinary meeting at 10:30 tonight. Residents' biggest gripe with the demerger process so far is about transparency. Holding a meeting at this time does not do anything to mitigate the impression that they are being shut out of the business case process. To be frank, it is dismissive of residents' concerns and confirms their belief that there is no intention to properly consult or give them a voice in the development of the business case. A significant majority of residents voted for demerger, and now residents are telling us very clearly they want more transparency over the process of preparing the business case and early involvement in the preparation of the business case, as evidenced by the public meeting on 7 April and the speakers tonight. What is important right now is a good process which deals with residents' concerns about being heard. While I welcome the action taken in creating the new website page, good and transparent process is more than just putting information in the public domain. In answer to earlier questions about the brief to Morrison and Lowe, we were told they have been asked to prepare a business case based on the guidelines. The answers to my question on notice at item 31 of the previous ordinary meeting's agenda outline the further instructions to Morrison and Lowe. The government's business case guidelines provide a thorough process which includes early stakeholder consultation and active contribution by stakeholders to the development of the proposal. The answer to my question on notice states that the stakeholders are the community. I note there are at least 2 other classes of stakeholders, council staff and councillors. As has been pointed out on a number of occasions, staff justifiably have concerns about the proposal, which involves another major restructure. Preparation of the business case can help in dealing with those if it's done in an open and transparent way. The proposal in this motion to establish a committee to ensure involvement will provide the community with the transparency it is asking for and be a means to ensure the active contribution by stakeholders that the government guidelines foresee. Morrison and Lowe have been asked to review their 2021 cost-benefit assessment. That document took a particular methodology in going back to standalone councils in 2014-15 as a basis, but noted an alternative methodology was available of zero-based budgeting, starting from the current position and looking forward to setting up 3 new councils. This method was rejected at the time because of timeframes. Now there is no dictated timeframe, and it would seem to be preferable to take longer to do a good job. Thank you.
Councillor Atkins, your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's been 2 speakers for the motion. Is there any speaker against the motion?
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
My only question is there anything preventing us from lodging a business case twice, one under a Liberal government, second under a Labor government?
Put the question to the officers. I suspect they won't know the answer.
Sorry, what was that? I didn't hear it.
Can we lodge a business case twice?
It'd be a matter for council. I suppose we're going to lodge a business case on a demerger proposal.
If you don't know with certainty, could we take that on notice so that we can conclude the meeting?
Yep.
Excellent.
Happy to take it on.
Okay, there's been 2 speakers for. Are there any speakers against the motion?
If there are no speakers against, I move we put this motion to a vote.
I just
Okay.
had another question, sorry.
Sorry, I'll just deal with the procedural motion from Councillor Scott, that the motion be put. Does that require a seconder? Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Stevens. I'll now put that motion, that the motion be put. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That is 8 in favour. All those against? That is 7 against. That has been carried. We'll now put the motion. We'll go to Councillor Stamoulis for a right of reply.
Mr Mayor, this curtailing of debate, this putting of motions that Labor are continually doing on this council will bring this council into disrepute. There is no question about that at all. We had the very first meeting of this council where on 11 occasions Labor sought to use the put the motion tactic.
Councillor
to
Stamos,
stop
I'll ask you
debate.
to be relevant to the motion before us.
I think this is highly inappropriate. Tonight's meeting, setting it at 10:30 p.m, removes the right of the community again. And
Point of
Councillor
order,
Stamos?
Mayor, this
Yes.
is not relevant to the motion
No, it's
before
not.
us.
Councillor Stamos, I'll ask you to address the substantive motion.
The motion is clearly asking council to respond to its people who are asking for a demerger process, a very strong and positive demerger process to take place. Our community are concerned by motion after motion being
Point of
voted-
order, this is not
voted
relevant to the
down.
demerger motion
Be
that you
voted
have
down.
put in this extraordinary meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Scott is correct. Councillor Stamos, you're speaking to items of the regarding the Code of Meeting Practice and procedural motions. I've asked twice. I'll ask again. Could you please limit your comments to the substance of the motion before us?
And I'll repeat here that we have an opportunity to move forward in a way that we can show our community that we do respond to them and their wishes. We have that opportunity. This is funded by state government. So misinformation that's being suggested out there that this is not being funded, it's being funded by council. This process will be funded by state government. We have an opportunity. The minister has suggested that they are receptive. They are receptive to a good, strong, positive business case and a demerger process that they would fund. We have not been in this situation before since 2015 when this is first raised. We have not been in this situation where in fact, the cards are in our favour. We need to get council energised. Here, council is the problem. That's where the problem is. We need to work hard and win this case for our community, and we need to give our community trust and confidence that council can get this done. We lost when we were merged. We then petitioned for funding to support the merger. We lost again. Well, we're here. We have a responsive minister who will be listening to the cases brought before them, and council has this fantastic opportunity for its community. We need to also create the demerger committee to allow many voices to come in. There are limited or no voices at the moment in terms of the demerger that's been constructed by this council. We need to allow those voices to be heard and for input into the process from our community, from other councillors and from experts as well. Councillors, I commend this motion to you, and it is highly important that we do this process right, and our community currently do not have that confidence in this council. We need to change that. We need to turn around the opinion of our community that we are working for them, and that we will present a case to the minister and will
Stamos,
fight
your
for
time
it.
has expired. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? That has been defeated 8-7. I declare the extraordinary meeting closed. I will reopen the adjourned ordinary council meeting, which brings us to item 29, notice of motion, Makarrata, Truth, Treaty and Voice. Councillor Langford.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to seek to amend the motion. I provided the amended motion to the minute taker earlier today. I'll just have a look at the words and make sure that they're correct.
Can I just ask you to speak to the amendment?
Sure.
reputational risk to council in voting for those recommendations now that we've engaged through a public exhibition process. You know, more importantly, as I mentioned earlier in my comments around the reconciliation plan, we risk the opportunity that come from that engagement with our community for raised awareness, for listening and learning, and for public accountability around the reconciliation action plan. I think I speak for all my colleagues when I say I'm excited about key recommendations included in the reconciliation action plan, including calls for a community hub. But we have a real responsibility here to get this right, to build capacity for the project through rigorous planning by following a clear and formal process that formally engages with local Aboriginal people to see what activities, programs and initiatives the hub should support. Respectfully, this motion isn't that process. Finally, the motion calls for councillor briefings on current projects, and I do note that the Reconciliation Action Plan clearly says that we will receive, quarterly briefings as councillors and for senior leaders. The success of the Reconciliation Action Plan is critical to our work in embedding the Uluru Statement from the Heart, putting it at the heart of what we do as a council. We're 100% committed to Uluru Statement from the Heart and its process of voice treaty truth. We're 100% committed to the Reconciliation Action Plan. I acknowledge the important contributions made earlier from Uncles Alan Barnes and Jimmy Smith, and I assure them and all Indigenous people that we're committed as a council to doing and achieving both. But the work here requires us to be humble, to listen to the voices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and to work across the community to build meaningful and lasting change. I look forward to working with all councillors with a spirit of respect,
Thanks, Councillor
humility and optimism to get those things done.
Procedural motion.
Thanks, Councillor Howard.
Procedural motion to extend by another 10 minutes. We've got 2 time critical issues after this one, so let's get through it.
Councillor Scott is moving that we extend the meeting to 11:20. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. I wish to speak against the motion. I just procedurally make this point that now that the substance of the motion has been so significantly changed with the amendments on the floor, points 1 through 4 are redundant. The first act of this council was to endorse the Uluru Statement. There has already been a very clear endorsement of the statement by this council. It was the first motion that we moved. It's been incorporated into the Community Strategic Plan. I don't want to get stuck on procedure, but the idea that by not voting for this motion, we're not endorsing the Uluru Statement is just factually incorrect. The motion as it was tabled and intended prior to very late this afternoon was in essence in opposition to the consensus position of Aboriginal leaders in this country about the Uluru Statement. Yes, Councillor Griffiths?
Yeah, 1511D. I think commenting on Councillor Langford's intentions is not saying, but you can. How do you know their intentions?
I'm speaking to the motion. The motion as it was tabled was in opposition to the consensus position of Aboriginal leaders in Australia. This has been a matter that's been debated very, very clearly in the federal election campaign. Let's just be honest about what was proposed. It was a reversal of our previous position of endorsing the Uluru Statement and putting a priority on the voice and the referendum and the constitutional change, reversing course and instead adopting the Greens Party federal party platform. That's what was proposed. Now, I'm relieved that very late in the day that the substance of that has been changed, and I thank Councillor Langford for being responsive to the concerns that were expressed, not by us, not by the Labor Party, by Aboriginal leaders themselves. They're the ones whose voices need to be listened to. I thank Thomas Mayer for his attendance tonight and to the other 2 speakers as well. This is also, with great respect, a very poor process. We have an important policy that is being put out on public exhibition, that we have voted to put out on public exhibition tonight, and then one councillor tabling a motion that says, no, it doesn't matter about the consultation process, doesn't matter that we put it out on exhibition. I'm picking 3 or 4 things that, frankly, I want to get the credit for, and so I'll move them at a council meeting. That has never been the practice of this council or of any of the 3 previous councils. It is very poor in terms of consultation. On this particular policy, to go and adopt the RAP saying that we're not even going to consult with Aboriginal people before adopting it, that would be really poor and a very bad outcome for the council and send exactly the wrong message to the Aboriginal community. I note that this issue is being dealt with after demerger tonight. So for anyone to suggest that this issue is not being given good enough priority or that the demerger issue wasn't put on early enough, I say this. This council's support for the Uluru Statement is more important than any other issue, and we'll never back down on that, and we're not going to support this sort of nonsense in the future either. Further discussion.
Can we vote, please?
Councillor Scott is moving a procedural motion that the motion be put, seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour? All those against? That has been carried. We'll go to the mover for a right of reply.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say that the intention of this motion was never to politicise. I feel that that's unfortunately what Labor councillors are doing tonight. You're actually dividing people rather than bringing them together. The wording was, has been communicated, was not intentional to do anything political. That was changed, and it was notified Labor councillors this morning that that was changed. I feel very disappointed that, you know, that Labor is not supporting this motion. It is not about jumping the gun. It's, as the Director of Community Services has already said, Aboriginal people in our community have requested a community hub. This motion is not committing them to us to having a community hub. It's about looking at places, at locations where that could happen. So there is no commitment there. I don't think that there's any problem with recommitting ourselves to Uluru Statement from the Heart. In fact, that is exactly what Labor did earlier this term when the new council came on board. So to say that it's redundant, that those clauses are redundant, I think is really insulting. I think that we can never say positive things enough. We have so many negative things to deal with in our community. So, yeah, I'm very, very disheartened by the politicisation of this. It is all about working together. It's all about trying to progress things more quickly. It's about recognising what has been requested by people in our community and showing respect for that and giving voice to that.
Thanks, Councillor. I now put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? There are 9 against, including Councillor Lockie. That has been defeated. I now move that we go into confidential session. Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Scott. All those in favour? Against?